Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm gonna be doing a voiceover chat with me, rambling of something, while you watch me build a Christmas village in Minecraft. So, enjoy or don't enjoy. Either way. What's been happening? Um, Update. I quit my job. I quit my job. I quit my job because, okay, so just rewind for a little bit. I was in this job working for a government agency, and I've been there for 6 months, or I was there for 6 months. And in that time, I didn't really feel confident in any of the work or the processes that I was expected to know. And when I asked other employees in this office about, like, how long does it take to get really adjusted to this workplace, the unanimous answer was like, "Oh, you'll need at least a year. Like, you'll need like, a year is probably when you'll start to feel really confident in this kinda stuff." And I took that as meaning, "Okay, so I've got a good year to, like, you know, still learn and ask questions and, maybe make mistakes here and there." And then an incident happens where I make a mistake with something, and all of a sudden, I'm being pulled into a private session with my manager and being told that I am performing below average, which is kind of crazy because, I don't feel like the mistake that I made was that impactful, I guess. Obviously, I'm not the manager, I'm not the person who runs the office, so I don't have that kind of perspective and knowledge on the situation, but basically I just forgot to timestamp something, and it's something that most of the employees in the office don't need a timestamp for anyway. Anyway, it became this whole fiasco, and so my manager pulls me aside and she's like, "Yeah, well, you're performing below average," but then, like, didn't give me specifics about what I was doing that was below average other than this one incident, and basically said, like, "Oh, your 6-month probation is coming up, and if you're, like, still performing at this point, like, that's not a good thing." So I ask her, "Okay, my 6-month probation is coming up. If I'm still performing below average, what happens?" And she was kinda like, "Oh, well, we can ask for a 3 month extension, and we can talk to HR about it, and that's kind of what we could do." But she didn't really say one way or another what her intentions were with me, other than she wanted me to improve. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm there, I'm trying to show that, like, I'm taking a lot of notes, I'm asking a lot of questions, I'm double checking, I'm doing all this kind of stuff, right? I'm working on an assignment, and my other coworker who's training me comes over and she's like, "Hey, where's this thing?" And I said, "Oh, this thing is in this drawer in this file because you told me to put it there." And she's like, "No, I never told you to put it there. Why would you put it there?" And I'm here like, "Yeah, you did. You told me that they're minutes, okay? These minutes go in this folder with this meeting." And she's like, "No, they go in this folder with this meeting and blah blah blah." And she gets really frustrated with me. And I'm here like, I am doing what I was told. I cannot help that you are not specific enough because you told me to put the minutes that I had in my hand into the folder in that drawer over there. So I get really flustered and I kind of just tell her, like, stop talking to me. This is what I understand. I'm going to tell you what I understand, and you can tell me where I've gone wrong. So I did that. We figured it out. It's all good, whatever. I'm already shaken. I'm like, I don't understand why I am getting so much frustration and harshness from these people for asking questions and doing what I'm told, because I am doing what I am told. I'm just not getting specific instructions, and then I'm expected to know how to do things. Yeah, that I'm just not one of those people, like, I need specifics. I need really clear step-by-step instructions. Anyway, I go to the bathroom and cry because 'cause I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" I come back, and this coworker, to her credit, comes around the corner, and she was like, "Hey, like, I'm sorry I was harsh with you earlier. I just get frustrated because I don't understand why you don't understand this." Which is an apology, but also it's an apology that still shifts the blame onto myself. I am the youngest person in this office. I do not have the same amount of clerical training and administrative, experience that everybody else in this office has. And I think that's part of the reason why I kind of continuously felt a little picked on because, like, for example, in the one-on-one with my manager where she told me that I was performing below average, she compared me to my other coworker who started around the same time as me, and she's like, "Oh, Stacy is performing at this level and she's proficient and blah blah blah." And it made me feel really bad in the moment. And I came home and I thought about it, and I realized that, well, Stacy is twice my age and has at least 20 years of clerical and administrative experience on me. I mean, she used to run an office and now she's, working at a sort of entry-level clerical job. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about how unfair of that a comparison that was. And then I kind of realized that no matter what I did, I was always going to be the underdog. I was always going to be a little bit of a punching bag because I'm an easy target, right? I'm an easy target in that setting. And I don't want to villainize these people because they absolutely gave me a lot of grace, but I genuinely think that they do not know how to train someone for this position. I was given a former employee's notebook as my, like, guidebook starting this position, which personally, I think that's incredibly unprofessional. Anytime I would, try to do something on my own and be self-directed, I would do it, and then I would get an email or a comment saying like, "Hey, just so you know, it's actually this, this, and this." And I would look back in my guidebook, and there was nothing that referenced whatever the correction was. I mean, regularly, I would be working on something with whoever was training me over my shoulder, looking at the same guidebook, and they'd be like, "Oh, wait, that's not accurate. Let me go print out this email from 3 months ago." And I'm like, "Hey, you knew I was coming into this position. Why was this information not updated before I got here? Why am I using a former employee's notes as a guide for me? That's crazy." Anyway, all of this to say, I quit. I put in my 2 weeks 2 weeks ago, and I basically told my manager, I was like, I just don't think that this is the right fit for me." Which is true. I wish I had said more. I wish I had said like, "Hey, I don't think you know how to train people properly. I think the way you train people is unprofessional. I think you don't um explain things in a clear and concise way." I wish I had said that. They gave me an end of employment survey, so maybe I'll go fill out that survey and put that in the notes. But the funny thing was, when I told my manager that, she told me that they were going to extend my probation another 3 months. And I'm like, "You obviously don't think that I am a capable employee. So why even try to get me to that point? Because in that 3-month span, I don't think I'm gonna improve as dramatically as you would like me to. I just don't have the the experience. And you knew that when you hired me. You knew what the job was up to. I didn't. And you knew that when you hired me. I kind of felt like with that whole situation, I don't know. It so yeah, I quit. Um I think it's kind of them to extend or to have offered to extend my probation, but being honest with myself, like, I was already experiencing so much stress just being in that job, and it's a job that I did not care about. It was not gonna be a career for me, it was not gonna be anything that I was gonna climb the ladder of, um, so why put myself through that? And I'm really happy with that decision, like, now there was a lot of anxiety, like, the first couple days, after I turned in my 2 weeks of like, "Oh my god, I'm really doing this, I'm really leaving this job that, you know, pays relatively well and offers me health insurance and," but I think the stress of it all was actually making me sick, like, I was breaking out in rashes, and the commute was hell, it's not a job that I care about, so I left. And now, kinda 2 weeks out from that, I feel really good about it. All this to say, I think if you know in your heart of hearts that something isn't meant for you, there's no point in sticking around, because I have done that many, many times in the span of my work experience where I have stayed in a job too long. I've stayed in a job where I was like, "Well, I just need to hang on and, like, maybe I'll get through this and maybe it'll get better," but none of those jobs were right for me. That's the thing, and I don't regret that experience, those experiences, those, things that I learned at different jobs and different fields. But at the end of the day, I think I kind of wasted some time in those spaces because I could have been investing more in myself, and instead I chose to invest in something that I always knew was never going to be a long-term thing for me. And so with this job, I thought, maybe I'll stick around for a year. Maybe I will, when that 3-month probation was offered to me, I thought, well, maybe I'll retract my letter and do the extra 3 months. But again, it's like I know that this is not a long-term thing for me. So why even bother with that? And yeah, so that's how I quit my job. But now I do want to talk about health insurance. Why Why is health insurance in this country such a difficult thing to acquire? Oh my god. If you are not under the age of 26 or married, I mean, it's nearly impossible to get your own health insurance. Maybe your employer offers you health insurance. A lot of employers don't. I would say actually only one of my most recent employers offered me health insurance. I was living off the Affordable Care Act for a very long time, and now that's also in jeopardy. Dental insurance, vision insurance, a single person's policy is like 20 bucks a month. Health insurance, if you want a comprehensive health plan as a single person, is like $400 to $700 a month. That is insane. That is ridiculous. So, because I left my job, I am now without health insurance, which is not the first time in my life. And my mother, who grew up with socialized medicine, was like, well, why don't you just, go without it? Um, which I know is a reality for a lot of people in this country because what choice do you have? I mean, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not going to spend $700 a month on health insurance for a single person. Like, that's just not feasible. The flip side of that is that medical debt in this country is also unbelievable. And so if you don't have health insurance, even, like a basic catastrophic plan, and you get into an accident, I mean, you might be $30,000 in debt overnight. It's a lose-lose situation. And yeah, I'm on my socialism soapbox right now because look, if your government is not going to provide healthcare to every single citizen, whatever. Fine. If the state or the feds or whomever don't want to provide that, don't want to give that sort of socialism handout bullshit, whatever. Okay. But health insurance still needs to be affordable. That's the thing. And the fact that the government is not going to these health insurance companies and saying, like, you can't price gouge like that. You cannot be charging people like this. That is unbelievable. That is totally unbelievable. Because it's all a system that feeds itself, right? The government doesn't want to provide health insurance to its citizens, so we have health insurance companies, but these health insurance companies can then, give whatever price they want. They can take as much money from you as they need because what other option do you have, right? And then you have things like the Affordable Care Act that come in and try to alleviate some of that cost, but that is not a fail-safe program. And now that's also on the chopping block. So, really, there's no reality in which a single young person can get affordable health insurance unless it is inextricably tied to another person or to a company. And that is also problematic because then you have people who stay in situations, in relationships, in environments that are not good for them solely because they need health insurance. I can't tell you how many people I know who have stayed in a job or in a marriage or, with family members who have done harmful things to them just because through that avenue is how they get their health insurance. Anyway, this is my soapbox rant about socialism and why we need some aspect of it in our healthcare system because it's getting fucking ridiculous. Okay, I'm done. On to the next subject. Did you know that antibiotics can make you depressed? Cause hi, hey, that I think is something that's happened to me recently. Um, I've had to be on antibiotics for the last 2 weeks. While I still have my former employer's health insurance. Thank you very much. And I've never been on antibiotics this long. I also have a history of like not tolerating antibiotics super well. Like, for example, Augmentin gives me heart palpitations. I can't do Cipro because I get like an allergic reaction. Blah blah blah. My body's weird. Anyway, I have been on Keflex for the last 2 weeks because I have like a skin infection. Ew, yucky, gross. And throughout that time, I was kind of like, why do I feel weird? Like, I feel like kind of sad, but I don't know why I feel sad because there's really no reason for me to be sad. It almost felt like how I felt when I was on birth control, in that I was sort of experiencing this like cloud and a lot of brain fog. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what has happened in the last 2 weeks that has like made me feel this way? Spoiler alert. Do you guys know that girl? That Scottish girl on TikTok? Anyway, she does this thing where she goes, "Spoiler alert." Spoiler alert. Um I think it was the antibiotics because I'm now at the tail end of this course and I'm feeling a lot better mentally and emotionally. So I looked it up. I looked up like do antibiotics like have an effect on your your mood and things like that. And sure enough, there is some evidence, not an overwhelming amount, but some evidence that suggests that people who are predisposed to depression, anxiety, hi, me again, um, can be affected by antibiotics because of the gut brain barrier connection, which is essentially this idea. I don't really know if it's accepted in the medical community, but this idea that the health of your gut affects the quality of your brain. And what happens when you're on antibiotics? Well, all of your gut bacteria, good and bad, gets wiped out. So I've been taking probiotics now, and I'm coming to the end of this antibiotic course, and I'm feeling so much better. And maybe it's a placebo effect, okay? I'm not gonna say that I'm smarter than my body. I'm not, okay? I listen, if it is a placebo effect, great, that also works. But it was interesting because I've never really experienced this before, except for the time that I was on birth control. And birth control also, at least the one that I was taking, can really do a number on your gut health. So yeah, fun little tidbit. Antibiotics, not good for mentally ill people. But you should take antibiotics if you have an infection. Like you need to do that. I'm not saying I'm not anti antibiotics. I'm just saying this was a weird thing that I experienced. Okay, moving away from the medical and personal nonsense, I should say, moving away from the medical and professional nonsense, I have been listening to an album called Miss Black America from an artist called Kirby. Holy crap. That album is so, so good. Lyrically, it's great. The topic matters are great. Vocally, she is stellar. She just popped up like in a short on my YouTube feed, and I've been hooked. She is spectacular. Oh my god, I would pay so much money to see her live. Other albums I've been loving since we're at the end of the year and all of these music platforms are giving our recaps, which I'm going to talk about my recap because I disagree with it. Florence and the Machine's new album, great. Baby No Money's self-titled album. I like Baby No Money as a personality, and I do enjoy some of his songs, but I have found in the past that a lot of his music is like a touch repetitive. But this album, this self-titled album, I actually like most of the songs on the album. So I was very surprised and very happy about that. I think my favorite right now is probably Gigolo still. I like Gigolo. Um I like the one that he does with the Vanilla Mace? The Vanilla Mace girl. What is that called? Oh, Bag the Fuck Up. I like those two songs. Hayley Williams album, solo album. I don't know if this is her first solo album. I don't maybe it is. Um hey, that's incredible. True Believer. What an incredible song. Oh my god. Again, would pay so much money to see her live. One day it will happen, although concerts do kind of overwhelm me. Lily Allen's new album is also good. It's good if you know it's good if you know the lore. It's good if you are keeping up with the drama between her and now ex-husband David Arbor. I think if I didn't have that context, it wouldn't be as interesting of an album to listen to, but knowing the drama of it all makes it a lot more entertaining. Okay, I have to talk about my music recap for the year. I don't use Spotify because I already pay for YouTube Premium and I'm not going to pay for another service just for music when I get YouTube Music with YouTube Premium. That's just me. I understand that people like Spotify for their reasons. I've never found it to be anything spectacular, so I use YouTube Music. I got my recap yesterday. My number one listened to song, Your Idol, from the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack, which is accurate and it's kind of a read, but it's accurate. And then my top artist ended up being Beyonce.
which I don't know how they got to that metric because, yes, Cowboy Carter was a great album.
And I like Beyoncé, like, don't get me wrong, but she's not really an artist that I actually listen to all that often. Like I said, Cowboy Carter, great album, but I actually think that Lemonade is probably more of an album that I would go for in terms of reaching for Beyoncé's discography. Like, she's not an artist that I go for often. Like, Florence and the Machine, I listen to regularly. Kali Uchis, I listen to regularly. Um, Doechii, I listen to regularly. Even the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack, like that, if that was like my favorite artist or like my album of the year, that would have made more sense to me because I listened to that album every day for my commute to and from work for like 3 months straight. All right, that's it for me for this video. I hope that you are all having a wonderful holiday season, and I am excited to do more with this channel in the upcoming year. I have plans. Whether or not they work out is always a question. But I'm going to try my hardest to be more consistent with this channel and produce content that hopefully will interest you and others. And yeah. So, anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks again for all your support. And I will see you in 2026. Bye bye.